All right. My name is Jenny O'Donnelly. I'm the Director for Marketing and Communications at the Academy. So I wanted to welcome everyone. We're very excited to be able to share information about our new partnership with the Arthur Center. And we've got Kerri Ferrari and Laura Hoover here to do that. This is a new initiative for us. We are getting that built and very excited about the services that we're able to partner and support our cadets with. So Kerri, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jenny. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, and I'm so glad that we were invited to come tonight to share a little bit about our partnership. Like Jenny said, we're really excited also at the Arthur Center about this new partnership. So to introduce myself, I'm Kerri Ferrari, and I'm the lead of school-based initiatives for the Arthur Center. To give a little bit of my background, I have a bachelor's degree in social work, and I have a master's degree in licensed professional counseling and school counseling. Some of my career has been with the juvenile justice system, with child welfare for about 13 years. I then spent some time with the school district, and I was the director of an alternative school. And then spent some time working for the state with the Office of Child Advocacy, and now with the Arthur Center, really to combine all of those passions of mine with my mental health background and also my passion for schools and for kids, which has brought me to my current role. A lot of my role is implementing school-based services into different school districts, such as this partnership here today. I'll turn it over to Laura and let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, good evening. I'm Laura Hoover. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am the executive director of our community behavioral health services here at Arthur Center. I've been here 20 years, and so I've had different interactions with Missouri Military Academy, and I'm so grateful that we have this partnership now, that we're able to kind of work with the cadets in a meaningful way. At Arthur Center, I've fulfilled a lot of roles, and my role now is really overseeing all the existing behavioral health services and the new initiatives that we're planning and executing with different schools in our service area. So I'm going to let Kerri talk about the partnership and the relationship, and then I'm going to talk about some teen mental health stuff, and hopefully answer the awesome questions that you guys submitted.
Thanks, Laura. Just to give just a little bit of history about the Arthur Center. So the Arthur Center's been around here in Mexico for over 30 years. We are the primary healthcare in Mexico, Missouri. We have been a federally qualified health center for over 10 years here in Mexico, and we offer a wide array of services, and we really look at ourselves as kind of that one-stop shop for mind and body, really treating the whole person. So we have services such as primary care, we have pediatrics, we have dental, optometry, women's health. Within our mental health department, as Laura said, we have therapeutic services, medication management, case management services. We have substance use treatment services. We also have a residential program for adults. We have an on-site pharmacy. And then we have service navigation, which is a department that can help work through insurance or sliding scale fees, and really let people know what services are available, and interpreting services as well. So a really wide variety of services. And our mission is inspiring community health and wellness. And so we really believe in that whole person system, treating both the mind and body. So to talk a little bit about the partnership with MMA, we're really excited to get this going. And this has been a lot of conversations in the making. With any partnership, it just starts with kind of some coffee conversations, right? And leads from there. So myself and President Geraci have had many conversations about this need because he truly believes in educating the whole person as well. So I felt like our missions really aligned to get those conversations going. So I also think that we all recognize that it's really hard to be a teen nowadays, right? It's not the same as when we were kids. And so I think some of those struggles are even harder sometimes at a boarding school, where you're lacking some traditional supports or maybe experiencing some homesickness. So I think we recognized that offering some extra supports at a boarding school where we're educating young men was really important. So then there's also the benefit of just bringing the services right where the students are, right? Instead of having to worry about transportation cost or transportation drivers, if we can bring those services directly to where the cadet is, that cuts down on time out of class, that cuts down on cost. So it's really kind of a win-win for all the parties that are involved. So what the partnership really includes is all of our behavioral health services. So that is our therapeutic services. We have an office that's located in the development office in the basement down on the bottom floor there. And it offers privacy and a great location kind of away from everybody. Also within the contract is our crisis intervention services as well. And what that means is available 24/7 if a student is experiencing any suicidal or homicidal ideations, that we're available 24/7 to come and handle those crises. That can be done through our 988 services, which we dispatch out our crisis team who can come on campus in person to assess the situation and decide if there's safety planning or next steps that need to be taken for a crisis. What else is it involved? Sorry, looking at my notes. Part of the contract also includes professional development. That can be for the staff. We have already, myself and Laura came over the summer and started that process with some professional development for the residential staff. We're also going to be providing professional development for the cadets throughout the year as well on different topics. That could be things like substance use, vaping, stress management, any type of topics on stress management or relationships, whatever we're really seeing that need be. And then we also want to provide professional development opportunities just like this tonight and talk to the parents because it's so important to have parents involved in the treatment. And so we would love to hear from you guys on any topics you would love to hear from us moving forward. Because obviously we want to provide whatever you guys are really needing to hear or wanting to hear, or what you're hearing from your students, different topics that you would love to hear from us as well. So to kind of talk about the therapeutic services a little bit, I think it's always important to kind of start a little bit with confidentiality, because I think that's kind of a question that we hear within the school partnerships is about confidentiality. So as most know, that confidentiality is really important to build trust with a client in a therapeutic relationship. So we're really not going to be reporting things in great detail to parents. It's really important that we would only break confidentiality in cases of wanting to hurt yourself or somebody else if there were safety concerns. So building that trust is really important. But we obviously can talk to parents about, is the student attending the therapeutic sessions? What is the treatment plan? Let's talk about what are the goals that we're going to be working on and create that treatment plan together. We can give updates on if we're making progress in those treatment plans. But oftentimes when we're working with students, we'll get the student's permission to involve the parent in some conversations. Let's say that the student's getting ready to come home for Christmas and we want to have a conversation with a parent about something we're talking about in sessions. You know, I might say, do you think it would be a good idea for me to have that conversation with your mom or dad before you go home for Christmas to let them know how you're feeling or how that's going? So really getting that student's consent so that we can involve the parent in that conversation and let them know what's going on. So As far as the billing and the cost, this is a partnership between the Arthur Center and the MMA, and we have worked that out contractually. And we will be billing parent insurance if we're capable of that. And what I mean by that, it really is dependent on the therapist credentials of what insurances we're able to bill. And due to the nature of the boarding school and students kind of coming from all over the United States and even internationally, most therapists are only credentialed within a certain state with specific insurances. So it's going to be an ongoing, pretty lengthy process to be able to get a therapist that can really do all of that credentialing and be able to bill the insurances. So in the meantime, we'll just be providing those services through our partnership with the MMA. What else? Timing, I think that was something that was mentioned. So currently, as we've started this partnership, when we are needing to see students, we're working with academics on the best time to bring the student in for an appointment or a session. And we're really leaving that up to the academic office, saying, I need to see this student this week, and letting them kind of handle the scheduling of when that's happening. They've been looking at students' grades and saying, oh, the first hour is probably not a good time to pull that student. They're struggling in this class. We should probably wait to a different time, or maybe during a study hall or a different time. So they've been really great to work with as far as the timing, because we don't want it to affect anything academically, but we also know that student mental health is obviously the priority. So as for any new partnership, I really think I would just leave it with that there's a learning curve, right? For all of us, we're building this relationship, we're getting to know each other. And although we have done partnerships in schools, doing this at a boarding school is new and different for us. And so we know that there's going to be some hiccups along the way. And we really just ask that everybody give a little grace. And we're doing that for MMA, and they're doing that for us. And to make partnerships work, it's really important to have communication. So we're having team meetings with the MMA ongoing to make sure that everything is working smoothly and successfully. I think that's about it about the partnership and how that's going. I think I've tried to answer some of those questions. So Laura, I'll turn it over to you, and we can kind of just really talk about kind of some teen mental health stuff.
Sure. And we're going to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. So if you have questions about the logistics and the therapy that's being provided on campus, you are more than welcome to ask about that, and specifically about the partnership. Or if you have any other questions when I'm done, feel free to put them in the chat, and Jennifer is monitoring the chat. Okay. So teenagers, I have 3 of them at home. And so I know that they can be a challenge. And I know that, sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between what's normal teenage behavior and what is something that my child needs therapy for or an intervention for. If they're calling you and they're tearful on the phone because they miss home and they want to be back there, and that's probably normal, right? But if they're calling you on the phone and they're crying every night and they're saying, I feel like I want to die, that's probably something that needs someone's attention, right? That's when we need to get an adult on site involved. So in the instance, where they're coming back home, you guys, are they all going home Friday? Do they have the week? No?
No, actually,
Thanks.
so yeah, after class is Tuesday, so some will be flying home, have some flights on Wednesday. And it's not mandatory, so not all of them will. A lot of them will, though.
A lot of them will be headed home. So I did ask Jennifer if we had a mix of parents who've had their kids there, or if we have parents who have kids who this might be their first big break from MMA because they've been there since the beginning of school. Regardless, you know, I think when your child comes home, you know, there's always that kind of like kind of little bit of a honeymoon phase, right? Like reuniting, oh, it's so good to see you, and you know, things are, you know, you feel kind of that reconnection with your child. But then after that, you know, they're going to do probably what most teenagers do, is they're going to want to go to their room and shut the door and go to sleep, you know, or play video games or spend some time alone because they have been surrounded by other humans day in and day night for weeks. So I think, you know, one way that you can kind of support your child while they're at home and on break is, you know, helping them maintain some semblance of a schedule, right? So they are very scheduled at MMA. They have very little free time. And so they may want to take advantage of not having a schedule while they're back home with family. And it's probably important that, you know, maybe they get to sleep in, but it's, you know, it's till like 9 o'clock. It's not till noon, right? Because that kind of messes up their whole schedule, and it'll be more difficult when they go back. So I think another way in which you could kind of support their mental health and their break from MMA is, you know, just really listening. So listening is key. And, you know, I think a lot of people think that they're doing it well. They're like, just listening, you know, oh, I listen to my kid. But I can tell you, as a parent with teenagers, when I'm busy cooking dinner and dealing with the dog and trying to do all the things a mom does right after a full day of work, and my kid's in my ear and I'm hearing them, but I'm not listening. And so, you know, the next day when they're like, hey, I thought I told you I needed to be dropped off at school at 7:15. I was like, I don't remember that. Like, I don't remember having that conversation. And so did I hear them? Yes. Did I really listen to them and extract meaning from what they were saying to me? No. So I think important for that reconnection with your child is going to be really listening. And while you're listening, that means sometimes as a parent biting our tongue or reserving judgment, whether that's about your child and their behavior or their grades or what they may have done or said, or reserving judgment also for the MMA. If they're like, it's the worst place in the world, don't send me back there, the food's bad, the teachers are bad, you know, I mean, the kids complain. They're going to complain about anything. But sometimes that complaining is really just them processing their experience. And so giving them that kind of time and space to complain without judgment, right? Without saying, oh, you know, you're just being a wimp, right? Suck it up. The food's not that bad. I've eaten at MMA and the food really isn't that bad. So if they complain about that, I don't know. Not true. So, you know, I think that they're going to be trying to share with you their experience, and sometimes how they share that is through complaints. And so reserve judgment, encourage them to do some problem solving, right? And so allow them to kind of think through it and problem solve. And if, you know, you're still kind of in a place where you're like, well, that's something that needs to be addressed, or, you know, how can I help with that? How can I help with that? What do you need me to do to help with that? Also, I think that, you know, an investment in MMA, investing your child's future in MMA, you did that for a reason. You made that choice for a reason. You know, the stars aligned, the pros outweighed the cons. Your family made a decision for a reason for that. And your child made it to MMA, so they didn't kick and scream too hard because they made it on campus. And so sometimes if they're expressing dissatisfaction, or, you know, they're complaining a lot, kind of reevaluating that as a family, going, okay, well, there was a reason we went, and here are the reasons why we as a family made this decision and why you were there. And here is what we believe will be the result of that decision. You know, I think sometimes we don't see the fruits of our labor until much later. You know, the child may not see how much MMA has benefited them and for a few years, right? And so change is hard. Anytime there's going to be a change to or from school, and I would imagine, and Jennifer might agree that, you know, there's also an adjustment when the kids come back from break as well, right? Kind of getting in line with how things work back at school again, getting into that old routine. So they're probably going to want to, you know, eat all the favorite meals. You know, they're going to want to sleep in, they're going to want to play video games, they're going to want to see maybe some of their friends that they missed from home. And I think those are all kind of normal teen things, as long as they're, you know, there are some guardrails there, and there is that kind of minimum or maintaining some level of structure. I think that it's also really important to notice their areas of growth and change, the things that you see that are different about them. When they're at MMA, they may be exposed to, you know, new friends, new cultures, new traditions that, you know, they never knew existed before. Their world expanded since they've been there, probably in a lot of ways. And so anything that you can do to encourage them and notice what the positives are without making it too much of a big deal. Because if you make too much of a big deal about something in front of a teenager, they're just going to probably reject it, right? They're going to be like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, you know? But even though they may shy away from that, or they may not want to talk about that, noticing those things in them and encouraging them, any positive change that you see will be good. And then asking them about the things that are different for them. What is different about MMA than home? What are the things that you miss the most? What are the things that you don't miss about being at home? Be curious. So I think asking those open-ended questions to your kiddos and really being curious about their experience in small bites, right? So you're probably not going to get a long, protracted conversation from your son about everything. Maybe you will. Maybe you have one that'll talk a lot. My son would rather give me like 3 seconds of information and then not see me for the rest of the night most of the time. But I think that anytime you can work in information or questions about their experience and how it's going there is going to be really important. And then if you do notice something that you're concerned about, work with your child and, you know, whoever at MMA that you need to contact about any sort of concern that you have. Work collaboratively with the school and your child to address any issue that you may have a concern about. But just know and be the example and set the example of, you know, open and collaborative conversations, because that will be a skill that will take your son very far in the future for sure. Okay. One other thing that I wanted, well, 2 other things that I wanted to mention is that MMA really tries to prepare your sons to be leaders. Leadership is a huge thing at MMA. And so they're really having an opportunity to try on some new skills. And they are experiencing sometimes independence, or what they feel like is independence, for one of the first times in their lives. And so they have these new friends, they have this new structure, they're succeeding at things that maybe they haven't been very successful at before. And so they feel empowered. And I think it's important as a parent to recognize where your child might feel empowered, where your child might feel independent, even though sometimes when our children feel or express their independence, it feels hurtful to us. We're like, oh, they're growing up, right? Or, oh, they think they can make that decision on their own now, so like, oh, it hurts our heart. But, that's what they're there to do. They're there to learn how to lead and how to learn new things and grow. And so, recognizing the ways in which they're learning those leadership skills may make them push you away a little bit more. The other thing is in coming back, sometimes they may start a fight with you, or pick a fight with you, because it's easier to leave if you're mad at your mom and dad than it is if you're feeling really homesick and connected. And so don't be surprised if there's a little fight before they go, a little tiff that may need to be mended or resolved over the phone when they get an opportunity to talk to you again. And so most importantly, finding ways to stay connected. Staying connected is so important, whether that is letters or packages or phone calls or visits, or ways to remind them that you are there for them, that you're proud of them, that you're glad that they are taking this step to attend MMA, and that you're wishing them success. But anything you can do to stay connected to your child is going to benefit them. And I think sometimes one of the benefits of therapy is that therapists can help teach your kid how to be receptive to that connection, or how to recognize your bids for connection with them. Because sometimes kids are like, they get mad at you, and then no matter what you do, you're kind of on their list, and they think everything you do, even nice things, are nefarious, right? Like you have a hidden agenda. And so I think sometimes therapists can kind of help kids see that, maybe their parents' intention was good and not bad. And so I imagine that there will probably be a lot of those conversations between the boys and our therapists. And like Kerri said, it's important to establish trust with young people in therapy, especially, but we are always going to let you know if we have serious concerns for your child, or anything that might threaten their safety or someone else's safety, or if there is something that we think would benefit them in their connection with you. So with that being said, I just wanted to open it up for questions.
I just want to thank you, and just to make a couple of comments, because what you're saying is so helpful. And one thing too, the parent Facebook group that we have, we're very grateful for that, because parents, this challenges that you go through and things that Laura's been talking about, very, very common. And so a lot of our parents will turn to that Facebook group and ask for support or ask for help. What have others experienced? And so I know that's been a big, big help. And I also want to comment too, we go through challenges. One of the things that has been amazing to me to kind of see is our cadets go through kind of the journey here and a process. And sometimes I've had moms particularly say the relationships improved with their son. because you're used to getting those short pieces, but once they kind of understand and then they haven't been with you, then they want to communicate, then they have kind of a different appreciation. So there's a whole journey of things that's going on, so many different emotions at work for them. And so I just wanted to comment on that because I really appreciate the support that you've suggested that for them as well.
I agree, to what you're saying there, Jenny, just definitely leaning on each other. You guys know the experience better than we do. So being able to have that peer support, I think, is really important for the parents as well, to lean on each other during that time. So I think it's great that you guys have that Facebook page. But I also think, we can't talk about cadets' mental health without talking about our own mental health, right? So it's always important to take care of ourselves as well. So not even just that peer support, but make sure we're modeling that we're willing to take steps for ourselves, get services for ourselves if needed, and take those steps if it be therapeutically or whatever it may be. But self-care is so important, and kids really do look at us for that modeling, and that's where they're getting their coaching from. I see that mom or dad is taking time out for themselves, and they're taking a moment and they're resting, and kind of resetting. And so we're great models for our students. So I also wanted to mention, I don't even think I said how to refer. I was just thinking about that. So the way that we're working referrals is through the med clinic. And so I'm sure most of you on this call are familiar with Lana at the med clinic. And so if you are interested in signing your cadet up for therapeutic services, then you would just contact Lana at the med clinic and let her know. And then the very next step that she's going to do is send you a bunch of paperwork. So no different than any other doctor's office that you go to, there's paperwork. So a lot of that is a lot of parental consents that you'll need to sign, send those back, then we build that chart. And then really that next step is an assessment, which is just really meeting with the student and going over a lot of questions about history and a lot of different assessments that we take. And then really deciding what that therapeutic treatment is going to look like. We start talking about frequency, is this needed every week or is this every other week? And then looking at that progression as, progress is being made, it may switch to every other week or once a month. And then hopefully, the goal is really discharge always with that. That should always be the goal at the very beginning. So, but every child's going to be different. So the frequency may look different for each cadet based on their needs. All right.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions that we can answer? So hopefully we've covered everything. As Kerri said, we are one of the reasons why we advanced this partnership. We've always offered services and supported cadets with their mental health, and this allows us to make that very seamless, as Kerri said, and how we're able to get cadets there with minimizing any loss of time from the classroom and just really advancing how we support them as well. So we're grateful for that partnership. So our Jennifer Allen in the academic office, Kim Russell in the commandant's office. If any of the cadets have questions, if you have questions, anybody can help. The clinic is our point of referral, but all of our divisions are working very closely together to make sure that we've got this seamless, unified effort for your cadets. And as always, if you have concerns or questions, please make sure you're contacting the CLA too, just because we want to know what's going on. If there's any major changes or things that are coming up that may be affecting, those are always good to let us know too.
I would just encourage parents, over the holiday or during your, weekend phone calls, now that this service is available, to really have that conversation with the cadets. Especially if you are going to make that referral, the parents should really have that conversation first with the cadet, not just being pulled from class and not knowing why they're being pulled from class and going into a therapist office, giving them a heads up. Like, I think this may be a really good service for you. What do you think? How do you feel about having some extra support on campus? Do you see that as a need? So I think the holiday would be a great time to have that open conversation, doing a lot of that listening that Laura was talking about. and talking about this great new service and partnership that's being offered right there on campus, and see what they're thinking about that.
Thank you. And Kerri, one thing too, if you don't mind, would you touch on too, just kind of the training that you guys are giving faculty and staff, so that everybody is there to help, and then also in terms of crisis, if a cadet's in crisis, kind of how your team's equipped, and what that part of the partnership looks like as well, please.
Laura, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So Arthur Center has crisis services. They're available 24/7. So we encourage a cadet or a residential staff member to call 988, or anyone can call 988, of course. And they have our local information. The school can also call our office, and we will put them in touch with our crisis staff, but we always have crisis staff available 24/7. So we will, they'll take some information basically about what's going on with the cadet, and then we will go to MMA to meet with the cadet and get some collateral information from the staff, and contact you as well if you haven't already been contacted. And then kind of assess and make a decision about what needs to happen with the cadet right there. The closest psychiatric hospital to MMA is the University of Missouri. So if a cadet would need to be hospitalized, that's a 45-ish plus minute drive. And I can tell you from working in crisis services for many years that most of the time people don't need to be hospitalized. They may be in a crisis, but it may be something that we can work with them on, do a safety plan, get them connected with resources as soon as possible. And now, you know, having a therapist on campus, we would have direct access to message that therapist and say, hey, Kerri, when you go in on Monday, I need you to check on, you know, John so-and-so, because, you know, he had a crisis last night and here's what happened. And Kerri would be able to see all the documentation for that and follow up in a really coordinated way with that cadet. So while it may not be the therapist on campus after hours responding to the crisis, it will still be staff from our organization working off the same medical record. Did I answer the question?
That
there
did. Yeah, but two parts. So the other part of it is just touching on the fact that you guys are going to offer some training for our faculty and staff, and Kerri alluded to that with parents a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to take this one, Kerri? Sure. So I think I mentioned over the summer we started working with the staff. And we'll continue to do that throughout the year. So topics that we would work on would be things like trauma, or different signs of depression, or what to look for with suicidal ideations and things like that. You know, having that conversation with staff about there's no bad questions, right? That it's okay to ask a child if they're feeling like they're suicidal. I think so many times that we fear asking that question. That's a really large myth, that talking about suicide creates suicide. That is not true. We did also talk to staff about self-harm and different signs to look for that, and then giving them all the resources that we had about 988 and our crisis services. We hope to continue some of that training, but we also want to do some training with the cadets as well. How can they recognize those signs in their peer? Because they're the ones having a lot of those conversations in the evenings. A lot of times that's kind of when those things kind of rear their head, is in the evening when the day is kind of done, the structure is over, we have some free time. That's really when you see a lot of that. And so really training other cadets and Laura really talked about that leadership that's going on at the MMA, but how can they recognize those signs of their peer that might be struggling? And so we'll bring in some other programs like Mental Health 101 and different trainings that we have to talk to the cadets about as well. And they may be able to save their friend's life. So not just the therapeutic staff, not just the MMA staff, but the parents and the cadets, were training everybody together so that we're all giving the same responses and that we're all trained the same. So.
Thank you. Yeah, our goal is to have a healthy and strong core, healthy and strong individuals that are empowered to be able to just be the best that they can. And so this is really just such an integral part of that. And we are just excited that you guys are helping here for our cadets, and want to thank you for taking your time this evening. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Jenny, I saw a question that I'm not sure that we answered. There was a question about if you're, maybe the cadet already has an existing therapist. And, we know that a lot of cadets are seeing a therapist. Some of them are actually seeing a therapist in our clinic. We have been working with those therapists to kind of have conversations about should they stay with an existing therapist or should they transition to the MMA counseling center. And really that's about, where is that cadet in their treatment? Where are they with their relationship with that therapist? And really getting both of their perspectives on what should happen with that transition or not. And so there's been a few that we think should stay with the therapist that we have at the clinic. And there's been some that we think would be an easy transition because maybe that relationship just started or they just had an intake. We also know that there's cadets that have therapists virtually with maybe somebody from home. And so that's a decision that the cadet and the therapist and the parents are going to have to make on their own. But our strong recommendation is that we would not have two therapists seeing a student at the same time. That can really turn into kind of conflicting interest or conflicting recommendations, and just really making sure that it's only one therapeutic relationship at a time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, I think that covers all the questions that we had submitted. So yeah, Kerri and Laura, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to this partnership continuing and expanding. And thank you very much for our parents for joining us. We appreciate that. And if there's any other questions, please reach out to Lana at the health clinic. That's going to be the first point of contact. But then, if you have any questions, to contact your CLA or reach out to the Academy. We are here to help.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.